Hello, HLC Stanley here again. Um, as you probably guess, I've just got back from watching the latest installment of the MonsterVerse, Godzilla vs. Kong. And boy, was it worth it. After like a year or two of being delayed and not only that, just like nearly 6 decades of waiting for a rematch between these two famous giant movie monsters, we finally get the rematch we wanted, and this is just coming from the screen to my brain to here. I saw a film where Godzilla and Kong duked it out again. That's pretty much just my overall thoughts. Yeah, okay. Yeah, this is pretty much not just a battle between Godzilla and Kong, but also kind of the culmination of Legendary's and Toho's MonsterVerse, and like 7 years practically in the making. So might as well just get across what I thought of the previous MonsterVerse films. Godzilla 2014 by Gareth Edwards with Aaron Taylor Johnson and Bryan Cranston of Breaking Bad. I thought it was a okay, decent reboot. I think it was a good way to revive and the character of Godzilla and kind of make him popular again in in the public eye of the Western. And I I know a lot of people complain how for a Godzilla reboot we didn't get to see much of Godzilla himself in it. I kind of I kind of see where they're coming from. Where they're coming from, and also I kind of get why or how they wanted to do that. Just kind of build up to his presence and kind of little glimpses of him throughout the movie until he has a big climactic battle with these new monsters and mutants at the end. Um, I thought I thought Ken Watanabe and Sally Hawkins were all right in that film. I also really liked Bryan Cranston. I too agree he should have survived all through to the film. I thought Taylor Johnson and Elizabeth Olsen were okay. They did their parts, and just that. 2017's Kong Skull Island, the prequel slash spin-off with Tom Hiddleston, Brie Larson, John Goodman, Samuel L. Jackson, and Tom C. Reilly, and of course the Eighth Wonder himself. Uh, I thought that was a pretty good film. Not just a good kind of interesting, unique monster, but I think it's one of the more underrated of the King Kong films, if I'm able to say that. I thought I thought the cinematography was just as good as Godzilla 2014. Hiddleston and John Goodman were really good. I liked John C. Reilly in his kind of snarky kind of like kind of dry deadpan bit of bit of a just kind of his humor in a way. Uh, and I thought the design on Kong himself was just what you expect from Kong. He wasn't just an oversized gorilla, just kind of grew in size a bit. He looked like a King Kong. He looked like something of his own species. Now, that wasn't perfect. I would have liked Skyline to have a bit more imaginative creatures in it. I'm sure some people out there would complain that it didn't have any dinosaurs, but I didn't really mind that as long as they had some magic creatures, and they did though. They had the skull crawlers. They had that little wild bull kind of bison thing. I forget what it's called, like a buffalo. I can't tell the species. I thought that was a good kind of connection to this monster. Then Godzilla King of the Monsters. I may be a minority, but really like that film. It honestly feels like what a good Godzilla sequel or part of any shared universe should do. It expands on the lore and the mythos, it expands on the characters of the old world while bringing in new ones to kind of up the scale, and it kind of gave a bit of a hint of the bigger world, the bigger picture. We got to see we got to see Rodan, we got to see Mothra, we got to see the three-headed horror himself, King Ghidorah, as well as some new original creatures like titans, if you will, like that's that gorilla mammoth hybrid behemoth, the big, the kind of rocky creature Methuselah, and the spidery Cthulhu lady Scylla, and those were good, interesting designs and interesting ideas. And apparently there were other titans roaming about in this world, and I would have loved to see more of those creatures. I would have loved to see more of the world. But still, of course, it gives way to this film we're talking about today, Godzilla vs. Kong. And honestly, part of me was a bit concerned how it would measure up, since I was kind of blown away by King of the Monsters. I wasn't sure how, I didn't know how Godzilla vs. Kong would measure up, but when I actually saw it, it paid off just as well. Now, would I consider it better than King of Monsters? It's hard to say. I wouldn't say King of Monsters itself wasn't flawless. I would have loved, like I said, I would have loved to see more of the other Titans. I kind of wish Sally Hawkins' character I would, just like Bryan Cranston and John Goodman, I kind of wished Sally Hawkins would too live to the end. And I thought Charles Dance was good and intimidating as I mean, he's Charles Dance. He's a cool actor. He's an awesome actor, but but anyway, Godzilla vs. Kong. Yeah, just to give a bit of a rough synopsis without, well, trying to avoid, there may be some bits of spoilers. I might put a bit of a warning at the beginning or in the title or the description, I don't know. But anyways, the basic premise is that 5 years after King of the Monsters, after like Ghidorah had been destroyed and all the Titans have kind of gone back to rest, to sleep back in Hollow Earth, folks at Monarch and also this new company called Apex Cybernetics, I think, have come up with a way to kind of travel into the Hollow Earth. And meanwhile on Skull Island, we see this like deaf girl named Gia, who's like the last surviving member of the Iwi, the native human tribes of Skull Island. Apparently, they were all killed off in a big storm that consumed most of Skull Island, which is a bit. However, this Gia girl has been taken under the wing of Kong himself, who's now grown up, a bit more buffier, lot more, bit of a, I think, kind of a beard and a few more scratches on the chest. And by this woman, I forget the actress's name, but I keep forgetting the actress's name. But she was good in it too. And meanwhile, we have this kind of doctor named Nathan Lind, who's kind of like a theorist of the Hollow Earth, kind of like Houston from Kong Skull Island, and he's played by one of the Skarsgård brothers. If I believe, I can't remember again. I can't remember which one. Probably not Bill from Id. Okay, he's approached by the folks at Apex to kind of lead an expedition to the Hollow Earth, with Kong taking them to the Hollow Earth to find some kind of power source to run a top secret weapon that they're working on. Meanwhile, we also have the return of Madison Russell, played by the 11 kid from Stranger Things, Millie Brown, I think her name is. I don't know. You probably know her from Stranger Things. She's returned. She's like 20 something years old by now. She's listening to like a Titan podcast, but from a guy named Bernie Hayes, who kind of disguises himself as an employee of Apex Cybernetics, and he does like, he's like a conspiracy nut who talks about a lot about the Titans, what goes on with them, and he believes that Apex is working on something that could potentially destroy the Titans. Meanwhile, on top of that, after what seemed to be like a few more years of dormancy, Godzilla returns and just wreaks havoc at this Apex factory in Florida, just out of nowhere, and it's great kaiju action. Meanwhile, everyone's trying to figure out why is Godzilla angry? Why is he destroying the entire factory and kill tons of people? And especially after he like saved humanity from Ghidorah and all the times he was controlling, and and they theorize that there can't be two alphas, so they fear that Godzilla and Kong sense each other and they're going to have a bit of a showdown, and you definitely get that. That's your money's worth. Uh, so yeah, that's kind of a bit of a rough laydown of what goes on in the film, without going too deep into the spoilers yet, at least. So what are positives and negatives I can think? I like, I do like, for starters, I do like the music in it. This music here is done by Junkie XL of all people, and he definitely knows how to do both the orchestra and electronic music well. I heard he's done other film scores before. I haven't listened to too many of them. I might check them out more in the future. Cinematography is also really good, and Wingard does definitely combine the styles of Gareth Edwards, where he tries to kind of film the monsters from like personal point of view, as well as kind of combine it with the style of Mike Dougherty, who directed King of the Monsters, and just kind of show them at their full scale. And I think he did find a good balance, kind of a middle ground between these two styles. Likewise, the opening part where Godzilla kind of wrecks the Apex Factory, it definitely feels like a moment from the 2014 Godzilla film, especially at the opening of that film where the factory in Janjira that Bryan Cranston's character plays in, Joe Brody works in, and it gets wrecked down by the Muto, like off-screenish, and it ends up killing his wife and like tragedy and drama and all that. But if that was intentional, that's a pretty good callback. I also like the relationship between Gia and Kong. Normally, in a lot of King Kong films, you usually get the sort of romantic Beauty and Beast aspect, like Fay Ray in the original 33 film, Jessica Lange in the 76 remake, and Naomi Watson in the Peter Jackson 2005 remake, and maybe a bit of Brie Larson in Skull Island, albeit a bit downplayed, which I think was probably for the best. But yeah, the fact that she's deaf and she has to communicate through sign language is pretty neat approach. I don't think that has been done before in either a Godzilla or a King Kong film, and I like to see where they go with that from there, among other things. I also kind of like how even though Godzilla did these questionable things, like of course wreck through a bridge like he did in San Francisco, they don't try to portray him as all out just evil for the sake of evil. That was the thing I was worried about, is that how what reason would they have for Godzilla and Kong to battle each other, especially when they've both been portrayed in a somewhat positive, if not kind of anti-heroic light, but still heroic nonetheless. But of course, what I could theorize from it, they do kind of make sense. They're both alphas, and they're both kind of territorial beasts, and they both may see each other as a potential threat to nature. But of course, while Godzilla seems to care more about nature, Kong has more of a connection to humanity. And if that was supposed to try to go through, I say kudos on that. I also like the this is gonna be spoilers. I like the design on Mechagodzilla. I really like. I wasn't when I heard rumors that they were going to utilize Mechagodzilla in this, I wasn't sure what he would look like, especially after he was used in Ready Player One, and it's a good thing they kind of made this one distinct while making him look like an exact clone, like a lookalike of the legendary Godzilla, and I think that's a pretty good. Why is the place? So yeah, I thought a lot of the actors, like the one who played the woman who took care of Jia and Kong, I thought she was excellent. Uh, I can never, I can never, again, I don't know the name of the actress or the character, but I thought she was really good, as well as the actor who played Nathan Lind, and I thought Millie Brown did her best. She was cocky. Having lost your mother like for 5 years, you'd kind of go a bit better. And speaking of Millie Brown, damn, I also forget his name. He played the father back in King of the Monsters. He was also Bruce back in King Kong. Like, uh, Mr. Russell. Sorry, I don't remember his name. I get lost on many. Carl Chandler from the Peter Jackson 2005 King Kong film. It's pretty funny how he was in a Peter Jackson King Kong film and now he's in a Godzilla in King Kong film. So it kind of comes full circle, I guess. Well, we don't see much of him here, but from what few scenes we see of him, I think he did try his best. We know he has changed a bit from the last film, so you can tell he's very very distant, being having taken on. I think he's like the current head of Monarch after Shirazawa sacrificed himself to kind of help revive Godzilla in the last one. So it kind of makes sense he's kind of growing a bit distant from his daughter for a while. Um, the battle on the boats and the battleships, that the first battle between Godzilla and Kong, was also pretty excellent. You've probably seen in the trailers. They actually fight underwater, and you kind of see how the ship kind of rolls and kind of capsizes. That was a really good That was a really good shot, and there are a lot of good shots in this film, such as the one Mega Godzilla kind of punches Godzilla, and you kind of see Godzilla kind of fall, and you kind of see I forget what that kind of camera shot is called, but I thought that was really good. I like to see more monster movies kind of do that kind of style. Um, I also liked how I also kind of found how Hollow Earth looked pretty intriguing. I initially thought it was just gonna be like just like kind of like how Ice Age 3 kind of did it, where it was just like a couple of caverns, just like several miles deep within beneath the earth. But they kind of, as they say, they make it's an entire ecosystem of itself. There's like the way they kind of go out is somewhat disorienting. You have the kind of upside down or kind of they kind of have like two lands of Hollow Earth. There's like one that's kind of on the core of the other itself, but there's also kind of the one down the land kind of upward where they can kind of go between the gravities and yeah, I thought that was bigger than I intended, and of course the battle where Kong fought those war bat things, which were like big cobra things. That I thought that was pretty badass. He grabbed one by the tail and swung at another, and just kind of swings it, kind of beats it down like a Tom and Jerry cartoon. I thought that was really excellent and fun. Um, so that was all good. Um, to think of anything to nitpick, of any negatives to say the least, I think I wouldn't say there are big pushbacks. I just think what I would have liked to see in this film, I would have at least liked to see I would have liked to see more of the other Titans, like not just Behemoth and Methuselah and Steel, but also the other Titans we kind of saw off screen, like just like dots on the map or something, like for Monarch outposts. And I would have liked to know what happened with Rodan and what apparently might be a Mothra egg as implied in the King of Monsters credits. And we don't really get much revolution with the Charles Dance character. The like kind of sell the Ghidorah skull to Apex, and just kind of went back into hiding. Maybe I'll probably get into that later. But for what? But even then, this is supposed to be our Godzilla versus Kong battling, and it definitely gives what it promises. Uh, so yeah, we don't. So it's probably so yeah, it's probably not really much nitpicks or negatives as much as just what I would have wanted to see, but as opposed to what eventually was. But overall, I think it's a really good send off to the MonsterVerse, especially how it ends with Kong and Godzilla actually teaming up to battle and defeat Mechagodzilla, and they just kind of go their separate ways. Godzilla kind of returns to the scene in a similar style he did the end of the first Godzilla film, where he kind of left San Francisco and now kind of left Hong Kong in peace, and Kong has pretty much become the king, the alpha king of the whole Earth place. So they kind of have their own worlds to rule, especially when Kong has a very cool looking axe that looks like Thor's hammer Mjolnir, but with a Godzilla dorso plate instead of a hammerhead. Now, those are just my very muddled up thoughts. Where do I like to? Where would I think or like for them to go from here in terms of the MonsterVerse? So far, in terms of upcoming projects, there's been talk of a Skull Island animated series on Netflix from legendary and powerhouse animation studios, who some of you may know for doing the animation for the Castlevania TV series and also the upcoming He-Man Masters of the Universe Revelation series, which I've seen a bit of Castlevania, and that looks pretty good. That sort of nitty gritty anime style. I wouldn't mind seeing a MonsterVerse story in being shown in that kind of style, or maybe something like Studio Mer, who did Voltron, Legend Defender, and Legend of Korra, and DOTA Dragon's Blood. Especially after the last times we had anything Godzilla Kong related on Netflix, we had the Godzilla anime trilogy and Kong King of the Apes, which were nah. But yeah, I still look forward to where they go from. And also, Legendary have apparently announced that not only would they might consider continuing the MonsterVerse with future films and TV shows and comics and all that, they also had been in talks of bringing back Adam Wingard, who directed Godzilla vs. Kong, to do another MonsterVerse installment. In particular, they had one they call Son of Kong. Yeah, they apparently might be bringing back the son of King Kong, or Kiko or something. Will he be an albino or look some ways similar to this Kong? I don't know. We'll see. But anyways, So further on my speculations, what storylines or ideas would I like to see go on in the MonsterVerse? Well, if Legendary and Toho, if Legendary are unable to get more of Toho's classic kaijus like Anguirus, Varan, Maguma, Manda, the Gargantuas, or even Mechanicon. I mean, if you can bring in Mecha Godzilla, you've got to bring in Mechanicon. I mean, how cool would that be? Godzilla versus Kong versus Mechanicon. Sorry, notifications there. Yeah. If they're unable to buy any more of Toho's kaiju for the MonsterVerse, I would like to see them utilize more of their own original titans. I'd like to see more of Amaluk, or Abaddon, or Leviathan, or Typhon, or Yamato no Orochi, among others, or Baphomet. I like to see spin-off stories about those. Maybe not just films, but maybe like TV shows or like comic books. We've seen bits of them in some of the Legendaries Godzilla and Kong comics. Like we actually saw not only Behemoth in Godzilla Dominion, we also saw for the first time Amaluk and Tiamat, who were kind of appeared as kind of names in King of the Monsters, but we never actually saw what they looked like. And from what they're pretty cool and unique designs. And I would like to see more of these titans flashing forward. I would like to see them actually travel into the Hollow Earth and kind of rule their own sections of it, like Kong kind of rules his own part of the Hollow Earth, then Behemoth rules his part, and Sela rules hers, and Bethula's has his, etc. I also like to see. I also wouldn't mind seeing like a spin-off TV series about Monarch, kind of like an Agents of Shield kind of story about Monarch, how it was found, some of the agents who worked for it, a lot of the in-between stories that went on between like the Godzilla 2014, the King of Monsters, and Godzilla vs. Kong, but also back, like the days of like the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s and 90s. I like to see, I like to see more of that. As you probably know from my video about the Invisible Man and the Dark Universe, which came out like over a year ago. Jeez. As you might have known from that, I'm a bit of a sucker for world building, and I love it when a shared universe like this is done right. And I think the MonsterVerse is the only shared cinematic universe besides the Marvel's MCU that I think is a shared universe done right. It kind of gets to the point. It knows what it's about. It doesn't shame. It gets to the point of it. But anyways, back to speculation. I like to see the return of Charles Dar's character, Alan Jonah. I like to see where they go with him, what happened with him after King of the Monsters, during Godzilla vs. Kong, and possibly after Godzilla vs. Kong. I'm sure Charles Dance is still alive. I'm sure you could bring him back for one final role and give a closure to his villainous arc, or maybe give a little backstory, kind of show his backstory, how he came to be the man he is. I would also like to see. I also like to see some of Warner Bros. Revive some of their own monsters for the MonsterVerse, like the ants from them, or the black scorpions, or the Redosaurus from the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. Warner Brothers pretty much distributes and pretty much owns those films, so I don't see why they can't utilize them for future movies and spin-offs. And considering that they have King Kong in the MonsterVerse, I I would love to see them bring in Mighty Joe Young as just as a kind of subspecies of Titanus Kong. I mean, I don't exactly know who or what company currently owns the rights to Mighty Joe Young. I'm sure since Mighty Joe Young was done by the same people who did King Kong, I I'm sure Warner Brothers may have a say in it. After all, even though Mighty Joe Young did have a remake in '98 by Disney, and I'm sure only Disney owns that remake and only that remake. So yeah, I would like to see Mighty Joe Young, and maybe even, of course, like I said, Mechanic Kong in the MonsterVerse. Um, yeah, I like to see more of these imaginative, new, and original Titans. I would like to see more of them. I like to see more of the fun human characters that connect to them. And I could go on. I can go on and on about this, but yeah, those are just my thoughts and my speculations on just on Godzilla vs Kong and where I think they may go from there in terms of the MonsterVerse and future installments. So that's pretty much all I gotta say for now. I'm Metro C. Stanley. Thank you for watching. Peace down.